Is your website struggling to keep up with the need for speed? Picture a solution that can turn your website into a high-speed marvel. Brace yourself for the ultimate.
Measuring the performance helps you being a better developer. Keeping track and making sure you don't introduce performance regression is vital for you as developer. So continuously measuring performance is the key. You can do that with real user data, but measuring the user experience. There are a lot of people advocating that performance is money. That maybe is true in some circumstances, in some contexts, or for some sites. And the only way for you to know it is to try it out. So this talk will guide you if you are new into performance testing. It will focus on how automatically drive a web browsers and collect performance metrics. The guide will focus on using SciSpeed.io, but it mostly be generic regarding the core web vitals that are the best practices for Google metrics. Any of you knows about SciSpeed.io? Know that tool?
No.
Okay. This is our agenda for today. We are going to see how we can measure our performance, what happened on a URL when the user accesses it. We are going to see dashboards, examples, what are the core web vitals and how to measure them. What is the coach? Why should we care for performance, for web performance? And I have a list of documents and URLs as reference that will be really helpful for you. So SciSpeed.io is a complete web performance tool that helps you measure the performance of your website.
It is free or?
Yes, it's free and it's an open source.
Nice.
What exactly that means? We think of a complete web performance tools as having three capabilities. It should test websites using real browsers, simulating real user connectivity, and collect important user-centric metrics like the speed index or the first visual render. It should analyze how your page is built and give you feedback how you can make it faster for the end user. And it should collect and keep data on how your pages are built so you can easily track the changes. Regarding that, what is SciSpeed.io good for? It is usually used in two different areas. Running into your continuous integration to find web performance regression early on commits or when you move code to your test environment, and for monitoring your performance in productions, alerting on regressions. So to understand how SciSpeed.io does these things, let's talk about how it works. But first, we are going to talk about a few concepts. SciSpeed.io is free, it's an open source, but it's built upon a couple of other open source tools that they call SciSpeed.io Suite. We have a browser time, that is a tool that drives the browsers and collect the metrics. We have the coach that knows how to build fast websites and analyze your page and give you feedback what you should change. We have the visual metric, that is a metrics collector from a video recording of the browser screen. And everything inside SpeedIO is a plugin. So they communicate by passing messages on a kiwi. And finally, we have synthetic testing. That is automatically drive up web browsers and collect performance metrics, collecting those metrics that are more related to the user experience than the technical metric that the browsers provide. When you, as a user, choose to test a URL, this is what happens on a high level. So SciSpeed.io starts and initializes all configured plugins. The URL is passed around the plugins through the queue. The browser time gets that URL and open the browser. It starts a record video of the browser screen. The browser access to that URL. When the page is finished, the browser's time takes a screenshot of the page. It then runs some JavaScripts to analyze the page using the code and the browser's time scripts we have. It stops the video and closes the browser, analyze the video to get the visual metrics like the first visual change or the speed index. Then the browser time pass all those metrics and data on a queue so the other plugins can use it. And finally, the HTML or a Graphite or an InfluxDB plugin collects the metrics in that queue. So finally, when all the URL are tested, SciSpeed sends a message telling its plugin to summarize the metrics and then render it. So that is the way of a URL navigate through all the done passes and this is the way of SciSpeed analyze all that information that is the HTML is loading. Some other details about SciSpeed.io, you can use it or to test your websites against the web performance best practice using the coach. That is a really important plugin that we are going to talk about later. A summary report in HTML that collects the navigation timing APIs, the user timing API, the visual metrics from Firefox, for Chrome, for Safari, for Edge, user the browser time. We have individual page reports. Run your custom-made JavaScript and collect whichever metric you need. That you can test one or multiple pages across one or many runs to get more accurate metrics. And you can look also trends in Grafana. So you can create an HTML results page or store the metrics in Graphite to check the behavior of the web page in time and include these tags in your continuous integration pipeline. And you can write your own plugins, so you can do whatever test you want or you need. Here some dashboard examples. So the cross data of the page SciSpeed.io showing the Google Web Vitals. So SciSpeed.io has a Crux plugin that can collect data from the Chrome User Experience Report API. And to do that, you need a Crux API key that you can get from Google. The leaderboard is a dashboard if you want to compare different sites or URLs to create a benchmark report. We have the page metric reports. There are two pages that shows individual metrics for a page, one for desktop and one for mobile. You should use this as a sample dashboard to inspire you what you can do. We try to squeeze in all data in this dashboard so you can view those by explaining each row. The desktop page metric shows the metrics for a specific URL or page tested on desktop, and the mobile page for pages tested on mobile or emulated mobiles. We have the user journey dashboard. So here they have an example of how you can log into the Wikipedia web page. That user journey measures 4 pages, for example. So we have a couple of examples or dashboards on how to add your own user journey dashboard. When you import those dashboards into Grafana, you need to add Grafana variables that match you test. We have 4 options, 4 optional dashboards besides of the previous one. For web page tests, that you can use it if you drive web page tests using SciSpeed.io. We have +1. We also have a dashboard for showing the GPS, GPSI, the cruise, and the lighthouse metrics if you would use those products. And finally, you can create your own journey dashboard regarding your needs. So SciSpeed.io is an open source, it's free. You can create your journey dashboards as you want. You can create the scripts as you want. You can measure the metrics as you want. You can custom your application or your testings as you want. Here is the core web vitals. Any of you already know about the core web vitals before?
Yeah, I have.
Okay, the Core Web Vitals is an initiative by Google to provide unified guidance of quality signals that are essential to delivering a great user experience of a web. The developers should not have to be performance gurus in order to understand the quality of the experience they are delivering to their users. But the Web Vitals initiative aims to simplify the landscape and help sites focus on the metrics that matter most. That is the core Web Vitals. So for developers, the Web Vitals can help you quantify the experience of your website and identify the opportunities to improve. So in this case, these are our three core Web Vitals. The largest contentful paint measures loading performance. So to improve a good user experience, the largest contentful paint should occur within 2.5 seconds or when the page first starts loading. We have the first input delay that measures the interactivity of the web page. So to provide a good user experience, pages should have a first input delay of 100 milliseconds or less. And we have the cumulative layout shift that measures the visual stability. To provide a good user experience, the pages should maintain the cumulative layout shift of 0.1 or less. So tools that assess the core web vitals, compliance should consider a page passing if meets recommended target at 75% of the above three metrics. So we will see these metrics in details in the following slides. Everything is clear until now?
Yep.
Any questions you have, please feel free.
I have a question, and it's about how do you manage a site that needs authentication to run? How do you pass the credentials to Speed.io?
That's a good question. We are going to talk about this later, but basically you could create a Selenium script in order to do the simulate the user flow. And when the script is navigating through the page, SciSpeed.io is collecting the metrics you need. So you could navigate to a form, to a login credentials, or many things you can do using Selenium and JavaScript.
Okay.
Tools to measure the core web vitals. So Google believes that the core web vitals are critical for all web experiences. As a result, it is committed to surfacing these metrics in all its popular tools. So each of the core web vitals can be measured in JavaScript using standard web APIs. The easiest way to measure all the core web vitals is use the Web Vitals JavaScript library, a small production-ready wrapper around the underlying web APIs that measures each metric in a way that accurately matches how they are reported by the Google tools listed here. So we have the page speed insights, the Chrome UX report, the Search Console, the Chrome DevTools, the Lighthouse, the Web Vitals. So SciSpeed use those tools as a plugins or maybe connecting the SciSpeed.io with the tools with APIs, but they provide all the information of those tools in the report that they generate, and you can see all the information that you need. That Web Vitals library, measuring each metric, is as simple as calling a single function. So we have the documentation for the complete usage and API details in the last slide of this presentation. Once you have configured your site to use the Web Vitals library to measure and send your core Web Vital data to an analytics report, the next step is to aggregate and report on data to see if your pages are meeting the recommendation threshold for at least the 75% of page visits. You can also measure the core Web Vitals using JavaScript. Alternatively, developers who prefer to measure these metrics directly via the underlying web APIs. So you can refer to these metrics guides for implementation details in our reference slide in the last slide about how to measure the largest contentful paint, how to measure the first input delay, and how to measure the cumulative layout shift in using JavaScript. Then you can improve in your scores. Once you have measured the core Web Vitals and identified the areas for improvement, the next step is to optimize them. So it's also have here the complete guidance that offers a specific recommendation of how to optimize your page of each of the core Web Vitals. And while the core Web Vitals are the critical metrics for understanding and delivering a great user experience, we have other Web Vitals that also are important. In this case, these Web Vitals from here often serve as a proxy or supplemental metrics for the core Web Vitals to help capture larger part of the experience to aid in diagnosing specific issues. For example, the metrics time to first byte and the first contentful paint are both vital aspects of the loading experience, so are both useful in diagnosis issues. Similarity happens with the metrics of total blocking time and time to interactive. There are labs metrics that are vital in catching and diagnosing potential interactivity issues that will also impact the first input delay. And however, they are not part of the core Web Vitals. These metrics are not part of the core Web Vitals because they are not feel measurable or they don't reflect a user-centric outcome. So the Web Vitals and the core Web Vitals represent the best available signals developers have today to measure quality of experience across the web. But these signals are not perfect. So maybe in the future, they are going to do some improvements or additions that we should expect. Okay, let's talk about the first core Web Vital, the first contentful paint. Using Site-IO, you can use Chrome, or if you are using Chrome or Edge, the Google Web Vitals metrics is collected automatically. So to see when the first contentful paint happens, you should record a video and use the visual metrics. Then you can go to the film strip or video view to see when the first content is painted on the screen, or collect the metric first contentful paint we use. To collect the metrics for the contentful paint, we use the paint timing API. That is the way that Site-IO does these things. So they record the video and they show you the information you need in a graphical way, like in this presentation. In the largest contentful paint, you can go to the metrics tab in the Site result report that we are going to check later if we have the time for that. I am going to do a small demo. And I scroll down to the largest contentful page metrics, and you will see a screenshot where the element that is the largest is highlighted in red. That screenshot is generated after the page finished loading. If the largest contentful page element has been removed from the screen.
Don't let your website lag behind. Click on Subscribe button for a future filled with web performance excellence. It's just one click away.
At that time, you will not see any highlight in the screenshot. But instead of that, you can use the information in the table to left or to identify that element you need to fix. If the largest contentful paint is an image, you can also see that image highlighted in the waterfall. The cumulative layout sheet, the layout sheet API, helps you find the DOMs element that shifts on the screen that degrades the user experience. If those elements are still in the viewport after the page finishes loading, we try to highlight them in the screenshot. By default, all elements that has achieved value of 0.01 or higher is usually highlighted, that we could see in this screen. And now the coach. The coach is our plugin that SciSpeed has. The coach knows more than just performance. It also knows about accessibility and web best practices. Even give you information about privacy. So when you have the accessibility information, make sure your site is accessible and usable for everyone. For best practice, you want to know or to follow the best practices, right? So making sure your page is set up for search engines, have a good URL structure, and so on. For privacy, make sure that your page respects user privacy. And general information, the word is complex. Some things are great to know, but hard for the coach to give advice about. So the coach will then just tell you how the page is built and how you can draw your own conclusions if something should be changed. We also have the timings. The coach has a cloud and knows how to use it. You will get time metrics and know if you are doing better or worse than the last round. And regarding that, does my page need coaching? You know, it's hard to get everything right. Some of the previous performance best practice maybe are now worse practices. So the coach will detect that the page is accessed using the HTTPS/2 and adjust its advice accordingly. The coach gives you advice on how to make your page faster. Use real browsers to see your page exactly like your users do. Every advice has one or more unit tests to make sure it is easy to change advice in the future. It combines knowledge from the DOM with the HAR file to give you a super powerful advice. And the command lines interface output is very nice. So you can configure how much you want to see. Use it as fast way to check the performance of your page. Any question until here? This is the way that you are going to find the advices in the coach. So the coach will give you advice on how to do your page better. You will also get a score between 0 and 100. If you get a 100, your page is great. If you have 0, you can do much better. So the coach tests your site in 2 steps. It executes JavaScript in your browser and checks for performance, accessibility, best practice, maybe privacy, and collect general information about your page. Analyze the HAR file for your page together with the relevant information from the done process. So you have here the list of advices with their score, title, and description. And if you show all the details, clicking that blue button, you can see the specific items to improve per every advice. So you have now the problem, the description of the problem regarding the best practices, and the offenders that are the specific list of resources, requests, images, JSON, CSS that need to be fixed. So then the coach analyzes the page in 2 steps. First, it executes the JavaScript in the browser to do the checks that are perfectly fit for the JavaScript. Examine the render path, check if the image are scaled in the browser, and more. Then the coach take the HA file generated from the page and analyze that too. The HAR is good if you want to know the number of responses, the response size, the check, the cache headers. And in the last step, the coach merges the advice into one advice list and create an overall score that we are seeing in this screen. The first thing to understand is that it's not a single metric to measure the speed. There is no simple number which you can use to measure how quickly your page loads. Think about what happens when you load a website. There are lots of different stages, many different parts which can be measured. If the network connection is slow, but the images load quickly. So how fast is the site? What about the other way around? Even if you try to simplify all the things to something like the time it takes until it's completely loaded, it is still tricky to give that a useful number. For example, a page which takes longer to finish loading may provide a functional lightweight version, while the full page is still downloading in the background. Is that faster or slower than a website which loads faster, but which I can't use it until it's finished loading? So it's a really tricky thing, but there are a lot of information that is really useful. Other things into the site speed IO, we have the browser stuff. This stage is where the page needs to be constructed, laid out, coloring, and displayed, the way in which image load, in which JavaScript and CSS are processed, and every individual HTML tag on your page affects how quickly things load. We can monitor some of this from the outside in with tools. We can scan the website and measure how it loads. We recommend using multiple tools as ISpeed does, because they use a lot of plugins, so they deliver you a lot of metrics you can compare. So they measure things differently, and you can do different assessments. How to diagnose speed issues through a waterfall chart. First of all, look for red text. If you have a 400 or 500 error response code from resources in your waterfall chart, you might see the name of the resources marked in red text. This indicates an error retrieving the resource. Second, look for the long bars. In this example, the long bar represents an exceptionally long time for the DNS lookup to find a custom font on a site. And third one, look for big gaps between requests. As demonstrated in this image, these gaps represent times when no requests happen, such as when JavaScript was executing or a browser was processing. Please, if you have any questions, go for it. Other uses for site-speed I/O includes the site-speed I/O in your continuous delivery, continuous integration, and continuous delivery. So to run site-speed I/O is pretty simple, especially if you use the Docker image that they create to that is available in their documentation. So you can parameterize via command line the arguments you want or you need. For example, the folder relative to workspace to store the results, enable support for accessibility scores, enable or disable video support, configure the host, the port, and the database of the metrics as time series data. You can use Selenium regarding the questions that our partner did before. When you have to deal with scanning an application, when registration form or login forms that are providing more data for the user, then using only a Docker image to scan maybe will not sufficient. So the problem is solved when you use a Selenium, because you can write a Selenium assigned script and pass all the information you need and the navigation of the user workflow and check everything step that you need to organize and retrieve the metrics of that navigation. You can also use Grafana in order to display the metrics we need to create the site-speed dashboard. So for this specific task, we are going to import a JSON script by several steps in order to organize them into Grafana. And finally, we have a Slack integration. You can enable webhook into a public or private Slack channel to send information for running scans to the team as well. So you can create a new Slack application in the workspace where you want to post your messages. And here is the documentation that I consider is really useful for you in order to check how you could install it, all the documentation of the browser's time, the coach documentations, the plugins available, the synthetic testing, dashboard examples, Google Core Web Vitals detailed, and everything you need. And if you need more information besides of that, feel free to contact me. I am just one chat and I can help you. The presentation is finished, but I like to show you a small demo about site speed. Let's check here. This one. This one is an HTML report execution that I did from the Endava page. So in the home page, we have many informations that is really useful. So we have the fully loaded, the cumulative layout shift, the total duration of long task, the coach best practice scores, the amount of images requests, the total requests, and many other information. If we have here the detailed summary, we have more of that information. This information, for example, you could include it in your continuous delivery pipeline in order to evaluate the change of your code in the time, how that changes affect the deployment. Thanks, Andres. Okay, we have here more information. We have in the pages, this is a summary of the information of the pages, and if we click that page, we could see the summary with the more important metrics we have here, the timing summary, We can download the timeline or download the HAR file. We could see the waterfall, how those requests is loading into the web page, how is the behavior meanwhile it's loading. Even we could see some metrics here regarding the information of the waterfall, the first paint, the first contentful paint, the largest contentful paint here. So something like the crowded tools is nothing different. We have these metrics, we have the core web vitals here, the extra timing, the navigation timing, the largest contentful paint with the highlighted image about the element we need to fix, and all the information of the DOM path to find it. The detected cumulative layout shift highlighted here as well, with all the information that you need to understand what is happening and how to fix it. We have these metrics here from performance. There are a lot of information here. And we have the coach. This is the total score, the performance score, privacy, best practice score regarding the best practice of Google. And you have the information here that you need to understand to fix your application and improve your code. So for example, here, this avoid slowing down the critical rendering path. So in order to improve that for fast render, the page has 2 render blocking CSS requests. So to improve that score, you click here in the blue button, and they tell you a description of what happened and what are the offenders that you should fix in order to improve this score. And that's happened with performance, with security, with privacy, with accessibility. You have here the performance advices, the best practice advices, with all the information of the requests or elements you need to check, the privacy advices, and the general page info here. Even the technologies used to build this page. And also we have here the page is rate in order to understand how the page is built, the information of the largest assets on the page. So maybe you need to encode in or zip some of the files, or maybe convert or resize. We have the requests and sites per content type in order to understand what is happening and how can improve the loading of your page. The sites and the requests per domain. Maybe some sparse and that modified statistics. And many other info. Even render information is here. And we have the third-party information. All the requests that are used, the tag manager, the APIs from Google. Maybe if you have connection with Facebook, with other tools or with other companies, they appear here. All the information of the content, of the requests per this first party requests and sizes. Well, that is a lot of the information you need to hear. The way we execute this ISP report is really easy to understand, and even when you are executing your script, you could create a custom script to navigate to the login, to a form, or many things.
Have you ever wondered how to make your website lightning fast? Follow John Performance. He is sharing the insider secrets of performance testing. Get ready for a journey filled with theory and practical examples and actionable insights you can implement right away.